Rayman 2: The Great Escape is one of the most memorable 3D platformers of all time. It was so memorable, in fact, that it got ported to every video game console known to mankind. I actually think there may be more official versions of this game than there are of the original Doom. It's crazy. Now, I talked about this game years ago in one of my garbage, trash, degenerate dumpster fire videos that you should never watch in your entire life if it depended on it, so you may be wondering why I'm bringing it up again. Well, that's because I wanted to take a minute to talk about what I believe to be possibly the worst version of the game, and that's the PlayStation version. Well, there's also a Game Boy version, but it's Game Boy, what'd you expect? Now, objectively, Rayman 2 on PlayStation is actually pretty good. Compared to the other versions though, it has some substantial shortcomings. You see, today, when a game is released on multiple systems, every version is largely the same. There may be a few noticeable differences in frame rate and graphics between different versions, but yes, otherwise, they're the same. In the case of older consoles, games were often wildly different from version to version for a great many reasons. And this is certainly the case with Rayman 2 on PS1. I should note that I tried recording it on my original PS1, but apparently it's broken and refuses to read the disc. No wonder they sold 100 million of these. They keep fucking breaking and you gotta replace them. So instead, I'm playing on my PS3. Yeah, to make it as authentic as possible, however, I turned off the smoothing filter because PS1 doesn't use any sort of texture filtering to my knowledge. Which brings me to my first point of observation. The graphics. The low resolution and more blocky character models notwithstanding, it looks about as good as any other version as far as I can tell, although because it's a PS1 game, it's a big victim of crazy texture warping, which creates this weird effect that is effectively very weird. Pretty much every single 3D heavy PlayStation game had this problem, so there's not really anything that can be done about that. But yeah, otherwise, it looks good. The next thing you'll notice is that the game has voice acting, which is an interesting decision because most of the other versions didn't. Even the later versions. They just spoke this weird satanic gibberish that means nothing.
Now what's booty you? Oh, now it's you!
Now, voice acting, when it's done very well, can really bring a video game to life and give it a lot of personality. Of course, voice acting can also do this.
Lee gave me lum to make your fist stronger. Lee said press square button longer to make your shot stronger.
Keeping square press makes my shot stronger? Okay.
I can't fly anymore.
You're the guard, is that right?
Yes, and you, are you Rayman, the masked thief?
I'm not a thief. I need the masks to rid the world of the robot pirates.
Well, I say you are a thief. A thief and a liar to boot. Prepare to die.
But he's completely crazy.
Sonic Adventure sounded pretty good right about now.
Wait!
I think the weirdest thing is Razorbeard. Sometimes he sounds cool, and other times he just sounds like a little asshole. It's not exactly good, but it is funny.
He mustn't get his grubby hands on the four masks. I'm surrounded by incompetence. I shall never be able to stop Rayman. Now I've got you.
The next thing you'll notice is the level design. If you're at all familiar with most of the other versions of the game, you will notice a dramatic nosedive in detail and quality throughout the game. There are entire sections of levels that are present in other versions that just don't show up here. And this is not an infrequent occurrence either. No, almost every level is like this. And even worse, entire levels are missing altogether. The sanctuary of water and ice is removed entirely, except for the boss, which is smushed at the end of Whale Bay, replacing its original ending. That level where you ride on a roller coaster collecting lums and shooting energy balls and shit, that's gone. That part where you enter the fairy glade through the echoing caves to get the last cage, that's also gone. Those mini games that happen when you get 100% on a level, that's gone too. Most versions of the game have you collect 100 lums and break 80 cages. In this game, there are only 800 lums and 60 cages. Many levels have much fewer lums than their counterparts on other platforms. The cages are a bit weird though, because not every single cage you break in this version counts towards the total. Like the end cage where you break out the teensy that takes you out of the level. The end boss is also heavily changed. Unlike the other versions where you fly around in an all-range mode, instead it's like a rail shooter where you just shoot bombs bombs back at him and guide a heat-seeking missile to hit him instead of you. It's pretty annoying, but one great thing is that if you beat the game and you have a certain percentage of the collectibles, you are rewarded with a Rayman 1 style bonus stage. Based on my quick Google search, this is supposed to be a level from the prototype version of Rayman 2, back when it was going to be a 2D platformer. That's actually pretty cool, and one advantage this version has over the others. In fact, in my travels, I was once told that Rayman 2 on PlayStation is much more reminiscent of Rayman 2's beta builds. I'm not sure how much truth there is to that, but if that is true, that's kinda cool. You don't usually get to play through early builds of video games. Objectively though, the other versions have much more intricate and detailed level design, which was one of the things that made this game so memorable in the first place. The big question on my mind is why? Why did they do this? Without thinking really hard, I might have said the PS1 couldn't handle the full scope of the final levels, but that can't be the whole reason. This is the console that gave us Metal Gear Solid, and, yeah, I don't know shit about PlayStation. Another thing is that sometimes a glitch will happen where music starts repeating certain parts or sound effects keep repeating indefinitely until you leave the level. I don't know if it's the game's fault or the PS3's fault for not emulating properly, but it's somebody's fault, and I'm not gonna stop until somebody gets a chicken thrown at their face over it. In any case, yeah, I think this is high in the running for the worst version of the game, but for what it's worth, it could have been way worse than this. The 3DS version has all the levels of any other version, but it's straight up broken. The sprites are all fucked up, one part of the game simply doesn't function the way it's supposed to. I'd record it if I could, but I don't really have any way of doing that properly. In any case, yeah, PS1 version, worst version of a great game, but it's a serviceable version nonetheless, and it's kind of fun to see what's new and different. So, yeah, think of it that way.